I haven't had the pleasure of going to Canton to see the Hall of Fame busts and plaques, but I have been to the Red Sox Hall of Fame, and I have seen the plaque of our next guest, Joe Castiglione, the voice of the Red Sox, a dear friend, kind enough to spend some time with us on a Friday and chat here on the Rich Eisen Show. Joe, it's great to have you. What do you remember about that day where you were inducted into the Red Sox Hall of Fame?
Well, I remember I was in strange company that probably shouldn't have been included because it was Roger Clemens, Nomar Garcia-Parra, and Pedro Martinez. So it was really quite an honor. And the Red Sox really do ceremonies right. They nail it every time.
Joe, we were showing some old photos here on Peacock, and there was a picture of me in the booth with you when I was very young wearing a Jose Canseco hat in the booth at Fenway. And Canseco, one of our favorite follows on Twitter, tweeted out today, "Why do you love baseball?" Just putting an open-ended question out there into the world. So I will ask you, Joe, the question from Canseco's Twitter. Why do you love baseball?
Well, I love the rhythm of the game. I love the people in it. I mean, they're really individualistic. And there's so much personality, I think. That's a big, big factor. The symmetry of the game, I think, just so poetic in so many ways, as long as the pitcher's not holding the ball forever and taking 40 seconds between every pitch, like we see sometimes today. But boiling it down to its basics, it is a beautiful and poetic and symmetrical kind of game.
Joe Castiglione, the voice of the Red Sox, WEEI, joining the show. And we were talking about the ticker that you guys used to have in the booth. And I remember fondly always getting the assignment of, hey, can you rip off the ticker? And that thing would print out scores and it would come down and it would roll up if you didn't rip it off too often. The advancements in technology, I would imagine, from when you started to now are astounding. How has your broadcast changed, do you think, from when you began because of all the new technology in the booth?
Yeah, basically, there's so much more information at your fingertips, Ben, because of the Internet. And, of course, we don't need the ticker anymore because we have the Internet for up to the second scores. But you can look up so many different facts. I mean, not only things like hitting with men in scoring position, but what a guy's hitting on 1-2 counts on fastballs. And all that information is out there right at your fingertips. So you don't have to wonder if this happened or that happened or what's going on because you have it right there. And I think it makes for a much more accurate broadcast in many ways, as long as you don't get too bogged down in the numbers, because if you do too many stats, it's like going to work for most people. So stories are always better than stats.
I have a story once. My first World Series game, I got to go to with Joe Castiglione, which was incredible because, Joe, I would imagine you don't get a chance to go to too many games as a fan. We got to go to Game 1, 1996 World Series, Braves and Yankees. Andrew Jones hitting 2 home runs. I think he was a teenager then still.
18?
That's right, yeah.
That's right. And so I would imagine, is that the only game you've gone to as a fan? Was that the last game you've gone to and sat in the stands?
Well, I did go to a game right around the All-Star break at our new park at Worcester, where a AAA club, the Worcester Red Sox, play. The Woo Sox, as they're called, at Polar Park. And that was to see the new park and some of our farm hands who could be in the big league soon. And that certainly, I guess I went as a fan. But I also went to the 2001 World Series, too, in a similar way, because my son was a sports anchor in New York and had tickets when the Yankees played Arizona. But it doesn't happen very often that I go and sit in the seats. But those were fond memories, certainly. And back in '96, we thought the Braves were going to sweep after that first game. They won the first 2 games and then lost the next 4.
Well, that's what's so beautiful about baseball, Joe, is that it's so unpredictable. And if you had told me growing up after all those nights heading back into Manhattan with you and my dad on the train when entire subway cars would chant, Boston sucks, and all the grief my dad got wearing his hat around Midtown. The fact that 20 years later, 30 years later, he would have the audacity, Joe, to say to me after they beat the Dodgers in the World Series, they should have swept. Can you believe that you've gotten to a place in your time with the Red Sox to have all these World Series rings and that this actually happened and you were there to call it?
Yeah, 4 World Championships in 15 years, and no other franchise can claim as many World Championships in this century. And no, you never think of that because it was 86 years between world championships. We thought we had it in 86 till the collapse at Shea Stadium. But franchise has done a remarkable job of reloading year after year. And it's really a credit to the ownership group here because you need good owners who will be willing to spend wisely to win.
Joe, Chris Brockman here. I grew up in Maine, so thank you for being the voice of my childhood. I appreciate that and all that you've done and what you mean to the team. I imagine you have a great scorecard collection. Any stick out that you, or just a memorable play, a triple play, a game or two, or what are some of your memorable scorecards in your collection?
Well, certainly the World Series championships. I have them made up for friends and family and framed. Actually, my scorebooks I give to the New England Sports Museum, which has them somewhere, I think, at the Boston Garden. But certainly the World Championships and some of the walk-off victories, especially during Morgan Magic in 1988 when my good friend Joe Morgan took over as manager. He won 12 in a row and 19 out of 20. Roger Clemens' 220 strikeout games certainly would stand out. Roger signed those scorecards for me. And so many of Pedro Martinez's great performances as well. But you have to go back to the championships, I guess, because, they hadn't had one for 86 years till 2004.
Yeah, I mean, of course. Of David Ortiz, so great during that stretch, and, of course, his legendary Hall of Fame career. Do you think, game on the line, is he the guy you'd want at the plate that you've seen, or is it Ted Williams, is it Manny Ramirez, or Nomar?
Maybe even Steve Lyons?
No, it certainly would be Papi number one because he was oblivious to the pressure of the big moment. He thrived in it. Part of the reason was he was such a good hitter and had such a great knowledge of the strike zone and great bat-to-ball skills. But also I think his personality was meant for the big moment. It never got too big for him, and he never pressed. He believed in himself. So he would certainly be number one. Of course, I don't go back to 1967 as a Red Sox broadcaster, but Yastrzemski that year, too, the year of the Yaz and the great clutch hitting. Those would be the two, I think. But Papi far and away because he did it year after year for the Red Sox, and he should be a first-ballot Hall of Famer next year. Should be unanimous, really.
Joe Castiglione joins the show, the voice of the Boston Red Sox and a dear family friend. Travel is not the same, obviously, in this new world we live in, Joe, but you've been a road warrior for years covering the Sox. What American city that is not known for Italian food has better Italian food than people might expect?
Probably Baltimore. And we expect New York to have it, but Baltimore has its great Little Italy section, and La Scala's a great spot, and Chiparelli's, and there's so many there in about a 3-block neighborhood. So I would rank that way up there for Italian food. We missed the travel. We're still doing TV games off the monitors at an empty Fenway Park, which is very strange. There are about 6 to 8 people in the ballpark at those nights where we are there at Fenway calling games off the big TV screens.
If there are only 6 or 8 people in the stands, Joe, just make sure Tom Brunansky's not at the plate.
Yeah. When he hits you with a line drive in foul territory.
It was a scary night.
Still got the ball marks on your chest, I think.
Yeah, it's good idea that my dad decided to keep me there till 1:30 in the morning when Jack Clark hit a walk-off home run in the 15th inning, right? That was a smart idea, don't you think, from my dad?
Yeah, well, you did get checked out by the Red Sox medical staff, but Roger Clemens came to your rescue after you got hit with that bullet. But, balls don't usually go there in batting practice because of the cage, but he pulled a long foul, and it found you. The ball will find you, as the old saying goes.
Ball found you in the booth one day. What was it like to catch a foul ball on air?
Well, I picked it up when it stopped rolling.
But still, to have a ball come in the booth while you're calling the game. Had that happened to you before? I remember being up there once for a Gary Pettis foul ball that somehow made its way into a booth.
It happens maybe twice a year because we're 5 stories up directly behind home plate. Sort of a tough angle to get a ball in there. It has to come up. It can't be a pop fly. It's really got to be sort of a line shot to get straight back like that. But I usually, duck and wait till it stops rolling and pick it up. And, I let my partners be the heroes and catch the ball.
You've had some great partners over the years. So many, obviously, from Dave O'Brien to the legend, the late Bob Starr. When you're a broadcaster in your position, what are you looking for in a partnership when you're calling a game?
Well, I think basically, Ben, somebody that can relate with you in terms of baseball, that you can discuss baseball with, because it's a talking game. It's a game where you talk to the guy sitting next to you, or pass the hot dogs down the row. Somebody's cooperative and listens, I think, basically, and with give and take, and understands the game very well. And I've been blessed to have great partners over the years, starting my Red Sox career with Ken Coleman, who's a Red Sox Hall of Famer, and should be in the NFL Hall of Fame, too, for his work with the Cleveland Browns. And then Bob Starr, who was wonderful, the late, great Burley broadcaster, as he called himself, who had done the Cardinals and the Angels and the then Boston Patriots and Missouri football, Rams football, Jerry Trupiano, of course, for 14 years, Dave O'Brien, and Tim Everett now with the Dodgers. And I have a wonderful young partner in Will Fleming, who is in his second full year with me, doing a great job. Of course, his brother's a longtime voice of the Giants, Dave Fleming.
One of those guys I got to see you call some games with in the booth at Dodger Stadium was Josh Duhamel. Wow, what do you remember about your time with JD out here in Southern California?
Well, that was a lot of fun to be there with a movie star, especially one who played Spaceman Lee in a movie. And he's got a great knowledge of baseball. I know he's a Minnesota Twins fan from North Dakota, I believe, in Twins country. And that's always a thrill when we have celebrities in the booth, because they really enjoy being there because they love baseball, and Josh certainly is among them.
You mentioned him playing Bill Spaceman Lee and one of the great characters of the game. Guys like that can't exist in today's game, can they?
Well, there certainly are characters. I mean, if you look at a guy like Ricky Henderson, certainly is a great character. Of course, he's been retired for several years now. In today's game, I don't know. It's probably a little bit more corporate, maybe not quite the flamboyant personalities that you have. Not necessarily the nicknames, or at least those that, are noted on the air. But it probably is a little bit different now. And I don't know, maybe the bottom line, the high salaries have a little something to do with being a little bit more buttoned up, I guess.
I get an email, Joe, every single time Alex Verdugo does anything. If he gets a walk, if he gets a hit, if he scores a run, I get an email from my dad. Talk to me about Verdugo's season and just this overachieving bunch this year, because the Red Sox are having a much better year. They stumbled as of late, but than anybody in my household predicted. Are you surprised at the early showing that they were able to put out there?
Yes, I'm surprised, Ben, because we had a terrible season last year. I felt a little bit better after spring training, but the pitching came along, and J.D. Martinez bounced back to his true form. Xander Bogaerts is always consistent, and Verdugo playing every day brings passion and fire. He's not hit lefties as well as he did in the past. He's had some ups and downs, but he always plays hard. As an outstanding left fielder, he's really mastered the wall, and is tough to run on. I mean, he holds a lot of wall balls to singles because of his quickness, his ability to play, and his ability to throw. But I think generally the pitching, which has been the starting pitching has been struggling of late, has been the biggest surprise. The bullpen's been excellent all year. And now Red Sox have lost 6 of 7. They're a game and a half back. But the hope is Chris Sale will be back sometime mid to late week next week, and that will give a lift. It's really hard to count on a guy who's coming off Tommy John surgery because it's not an instant cure. But it'll be interesting to see what Chris can do. He certainly will bring a lot of passion, a lot of leadership, and he's going to pitch Saturday at Scranton against for Worcester, the AAA club, his final rehab start. If all goes well, he should maybe pitch against Tampa Bay next Thursday or the following day at home. So that's going to be a huge lift for this ball club. Also getting Kyle Schwarber, whom they acquired in a trade. He hasn't played yet because of a hamstring issue he had with Washington. But that should lift an offense which has been struggling of late, too.
Well, the fact that we're here in August and we're even thinking about a World Series run for this group, I know has my dad happy, but even my mom happier because my dad's been in a great mood all summer listening to your calls. And I was chatting with Brockman before you jumped on. He said, I have the beer opener that when you hit it open, it has Joe's "Can You Believe It" on the call. Where have you been in your travels where someone has come up to you and said, "Can you believe it?" Or is that something that people say to you when they see you out in the world?
Well, they do. If they hear me talk, they don't recognize me, fortunately, so I can somewhat go incognito. But that bottle cap opener was awesome. It paid for my daughter's senior year at Boston College.
There you go. Good stuff.
Joe, both pitches were 1-0 pitches. You know that, right? Of course.
The in 04, to Red Torria, who later came to the Red Sox. The following year, in fact, played shortstop and didn't really enjoy
pan out
Boston too much.
But the Pokey Reese played it to end the Yankees series. It was a 1-0 pitch also.
Well, that was a 1-0. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Sierra grounded out, yeah.
I love that those bottle.
That was the ultimate because, the Red Sox had always lost a big game to the Yankees.
Yep.
And when they won Game 7 in 04, it was extra special.
Extra special having you on the show, and I love how that bottle cap opener put Katie through college, and somehow that bottle cap opener kept Brockman almost from falling out of college in some ways. So, kindred spirits, those two. Joe, you're the greatest. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you in advance for putting up with my father when he comes up to what he calls Mecca in September to promote his book. So thank you in advance for dealing with the big guy.
Hopefully he'll be here, and, now he can root for the Mets, too, because one of our all-time favorites, Rich Hill, is now with the Mets pitching well. And who knows? We'd like a replay of the 1986 World Series.
Oh, that'd be a lot of fun, wouldn't it? That'd be a lot of fun. From your lips to God's ears. Joe, you're the greatest. Thanks for taking some time.
Okay, Ben and Chris, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Joe.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.